Today we're going to look at how to use the RadCalculatorPicker as an editing element in RadGridView. RadCalculatorPicker is part of the Telerik Rad controls for Silverlight WPF control suite for .NET XAML development. In this video we're going to show that the RadCalculatorPicker can be embedded as an editing element for a column in RadGridView. Let's go ahead and jump inside of Visual Studio 2010 and get started. So here we are once again, we're inside of Visual Studio 2010. We're going to begin with the file, new project. We're going to select Visual C#, Silverlight, and then Rad Controls Silverlight Application. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to give this the name of Calculator, GridView, TTV, and then press OK. Next up, we're going to host the Silverlight application in a new website, and we're also going to be using Silverlight 5 for this sample. After we press OK, we're going to see the Telerik project configuration wizard. I'm just going to scroll down and I'm going to place a check here on telerik.windows.controls.input, and then if I scroll up you'll see that the dependent reference has been added for us, which is telerik.windows.controls. Next we're going to go ahead and hit the finish button, and our Silverlight 5 project will begin spinning up. The first thing to note here is that underneath references we have telerik.windows.controls and telerik.windows.controls.input. And if we scroll up a tad here, we'll see that the Telerik XML namespace has been added for us. So in this application we're going to be using the Rad calculator, but we're also going to be using the RadGridView. So we added in the references to telerik.windows.controls, and also we added in the references to telerik.windows.controls.input, but we're also going to need to add in the references for our GridView. So we're just going to come back up to Telerik, Rad Controls Silverlight. We're going to go Configure Project, and I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to place a check here in telerik.windows.controls.gridview and hit Finish. And you'll notice that it went ahead and it added those to our projects for us by the use of the Telerik VS extensions. So I'm just going to go ahead and close back up on references, and I'm going to begin by creating just a very simple class. So I'm going to right click my project, add class, and I'm just going to name this club, and inside of club I'm just going to paste in here a tad bit of code. So in our club constructor we have a string of name, a date time, and then a stadium capacity. And then of course we're setting our this.name, this.establish, and this.stadium capacity to what was passed in. Next up we have a simple property for name. We have a date time set for establish property. Then we have an int for our stadium property. So this is just a very quick and easy way to generate some dummy data for our grid view. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit a Control-Shift-U, and I'm going to scroll up to the top, and you'll see by using Just Code, which is a productivity tool by Telerik, it went ahead and removed the unneeded using statements as well as added the two that we need for this project, which is system.collections.generic and system.collections.objectModel. And if we scroll back down, you can see that we're using a public static IEnumerable of club. Then we just have an observable collection here, and we're just adding in some dummy data here, just 4 new clubs. So once that's in place, I'm going to go ahead and navigate over to mainpage.xaml. And inside of our mainpage.xaml, I'm going to begin by going underneath the grid here, and I'm just going to paste in a RadGridView. I'm just going to give it a name here of clubs grid, and then I'm going to set just a couple of properties. The only one that we're going to be concerned with here is that I'm just going to set the item source to be binding to clubs. We're also going to be using our star sizing for our column width, and we're going to set auto generate columns to false. So since we set our auto generate columns to false, that means we're going to need to define them. So I'm just going to paste in another code snippet here, and you'll see we're using Telerik RadGridView.columns. We're creating our first column, which is just data member binding to our name. Next up is the data member binding to our stadium capacity, and we're also going to go ahead, we're going to set the header here and then data format string. And then we have our established. We're also setting that string as well. But if you'll notice here that underneath the stadium capacity, I didn't close that tag in line. So I've left myself a little bit of room to add in our RadCalculatorPicker. So I'm going to begin by typing in our Telerik GridView data column dot cell edit template, and inside of that I'm just going to define my own data template, which is going to be Telerik RadCalculatorPicker. The value here is going to be binding to stadium capacity, and the mode here is just going to be set to two-way. I'm going to go ahead and close out of that tag. So the only other thing, I'm going to switch back to my code behind here, and I'm going to set this .clubsgrid.item source equal to club.getClubs. So once I do that and I go ahead and I run my application again, we can see that we have our RadGridView. We have our three columns here. We have our name, stadium, and establish. But underneath this stadium here, I actually have my RadCalculatorPicker control. So I can click the drop down here, and maybe you wanted to calculate how many people was inside of the stadium at that time. You could simply add your calculation in here, hit equal, and it's automatically displayed here inside a stadium for you. So that wraps up the series on RadCalculator. So please tune in to tv.telerik.com for more videos, and check out blogs.telerik.com for the latest news and announcements. Thank you.